Hey everyone, today we're going to be replacing the master cylinder in my 97 GMC Sonoma, and it's a pretty simple procedure. The hardest thing to do is the bench bleeding process. So let's go. Okay, so why not start at the bench bleeding procedure? We have some new brake fluid here. This is .4. .4 is compatible with .3 vehicles, but you don't want to use .5. So here we go. I have the kit came with these plugs to plug it up during the bleeding procedure. We're gonna do that now, and we're gonna fill up both sides. Might have to get in the way, oops, a little bit. I moved to my other detached vise because I needed to put some stuff underneath of it. Because this brake bleeding procedure says that the front of the nose should be face down for this first part. So we have that done, and now we're gonna take a smooth dowel, something that won't damage the piston in here, and we're gonna go in about 1 inch. And actually, hold on. So I've marked about 1 inch on there, but you know, just as a guide. So let's see here. We're gonna just I don't know if you can see that, but there are bubbles coming out the top. Let me give you guys a better view. So, here we go. You can see now that we're just spraying a stream of fluid up, and now there's less bubbles. There's a little bit. It's getting harder to push in. Ugh. You see that? It's just a stream now. Okay, we're just about at the point where I can't really push it in, and we're not really pushing out any more bubbles. It's just jets. Okay, so now what it says to do next is we're going to remove all these shims from underneath the vise. And now we're going to put the shims on the other side. So that the nose is facing up. So now that the nose is facing up, we're going to do this again, making sure we have enough fluid in there, because you don't want to make this run dry, otherwise you'll have to start over. We're going to just go again until we pump all the air out. Okay, that should be good. Okay, we're back to the fixed vise, because now it has to be level. And I forgot to mention, it's extremely important that you do not clamp on the bore. You clamp on the ear, one of the ears. If you clamp on the bore, you can distort it and just either mess up your master cylinder or you never be able to bleed it. So what we're going to do is we're going to, actually let me get a container right underneath. We are going to loosen this guy, and then we're going to loosen this, push in, tighten this, and let out. Alright, now we have to close this before we pull it back. And then we're going to do the same thing over here. Okay, so now we're just going to top off the reservoir by looking at the side indicators. Sorry if my head's in the way. I'm going to put the cap on. There. Okay, now let's take the old one off. Okay, here we are at the driver's side of the truck, and the way I know that this vehicle needs a new master cylinder is because one, the brakes are spongy, which is by itself not enough, but there was also fluid leaking from behind the master cylinder, and what that typically means is that the master cylinder seal has started to leak. So that's why we got a new one. Now, what you would ideally do is you would use a flare wrench. It's kind of a wrench that kind of goes around like that, or a flare nut wrench, and that lets you get more of a bite on that nut without it rounding off the line, because that would be a pain if that happened. This particular size is the size of a flare wrench I don't have. It's a 14 millimeter, so I just took this is one of my gear wrenches. This is, you want a thick wrench. You don't want one that's skinny, because a thick one won't bend open, because sometimes these are really hard to get out. So let's use this, and that was very easy, but they're not always that easy. So actually, let me get some rags to catch this fluid. I'm going to use these plugs that came with the master cylinder when I first got it. Try to plug up the hole. There we go. And then for this side. You got this plug. There. Alright, so next we have the two bolts on the ears that are holding it on. Alright, use the gear wrench. Spray some penetrant oil on those. Kind of help things along a little bit. Okay, with both those bolts out, that was tough. They were rusty. This should come right off. There we go. So from here you can see all the residue from the fluid. Just gotta clean that off. Okay, let's put the new one on. There we go. Actually, we're gonna clean off these studs. They're pretty. Yeah, they're not allowing these nuts to spin nice at all. And so I just have a wire brush, and we're gonna. Alright, I can't find a tap, so we're just gonna have to. I mean a die, not a tap. We're just gonna have to deal with it the way it is. Okay. Okay. Put the lines back in. Get that in there. If you're not screwing in without effort, just move the line around to take some load off of it, because it might be cocked to one side. And you don't want to kill this thing. You're going into aluminum. There. Next we need to bleed the brakes. Alright guys, well that's it for this video. I bled the brakes off camera because I made videos of how to bleed brakes, and that's kind of a separate thing. But the order for bleeding brakes on this truck is right rear, right front, left front. So I did that, and I also just in case I bled any extra air out by the lines by the master cylinder. And a little tip I learned from Eric the car guy: if your master cylinder still doesn't feel quite right, it's a little spongy still after you did everything and bled everything, just try going like 35 miles an hour and just slamming on the brakes a couple times, just going hard, slamming on the brakes, and that definitely seems to make it better. So the brakes are great now. So that just about wraps it up for this video. I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.